Hello, parents and guardians, and welcome back to another Discipleship Debrief. So this past Sunday, CBC Youth continued our series in Ecclesiastes. We are now part of the way through Ecclesiastes chapter 2, and really we were looking at the idea of materialism and the vanity of materialism, how materialism is purposeless. And so we looked at this through Ecclesiastes chapter 2 and then also Ecclesiastes chapter 5. And it's funny because we tend to think of materialism as a relatively new concept. It's a philosophical worldview that is relatively new, and yet we see it explored fully in the day of the preacher, which was, 500 BC. And so it's very interesting to see these things explored through Scripture and just how relevant Scripture always is. So we looked at this. We looked at the preacher's continuing line of thought of knowledge can't bring me happiness, working can't bring me happiness, creation itself can't bring me happiness, entertainment can't bring me happiness, and then he moves on to material objects. Maybe material objects will bring me happiness, and he's just continuing to explore each topic without God at the center and see, does that bring true happiness? And his answer to material objects was no. He gives this incredible list in chapter 2 where he says that he has all of these things where there's status symbols. He has all of these things that are entertainment symbols. He has all these things. And he lists dozens and dozens of material objects, very valuable objects that he's able to acquire for himself as the king. And then at the end, in chapter 2, verse 11, he says, there was nothing to be gained under the sun. And this showed us the inherent problem with materialism, thinking that material objects can bring us happiness, can bring us purpose. There was nothing gained under the sun. And the issue was not that he didn't actually gain anything materially. He gained quite a few things materially. The issue was that he didn't gain anything eternally. The preacher was most likely Solomon, and we took a look at Proverbs where Solomon says that riches bring you nothing in the day of judgment. And so we got to see this understanding that material objects really, at their core, bring us nothing. We all know, deep down, we all know we are not going to get to heaven and have God ask, what was the dollar amount in your bank account when you died? We know this. We know that God's not going to ask, did you complete that collection that you were all about? We know that God's not going to ask, did you have the newest gaming console? God's not going to ask, did you have the newest phone? We know that. Deep down, we know that. And so deep down, we know that materialism has no eternal value. These material objects can't bring us any sort of eternal reward or eternal value or eternal purpose. We know that. And then we also looked at, in chapter 5, the fact that these material objects or materialism as a purpose, as a worldview, it can trap us. It can ensnare us. It can't satisfy us, so it does lead us astray. And we saw this very vividly where Solomon gives the picture of a poor person who works hard and then sleeps well at night with a partially full stomach. And then a rich person who has everything he could need, sleeps with a full stomach, and yet cannot actually fall asleep. And it's this incredible picture of the content person versus the person who has far more and yet still wants more. Understanding that there will never be enough material objects, there will never be enough to actually satisfy us, and therefore we will be led astray by the pursuit of them. Christ echoes this when he says in Matthew 6 that where our heart or where our treasure is, there our heart will be also. Paul echoes this in 1 Timothy when he tells Timothy that the love of money has caused some people to walk away from the faith, to go astray from the faith. And so we see the real danger of materialism, that these vain objects that can't bring us any eternal value actually distract us from the things of true eternal value. And then, of course, we looked at how Christ solves these problems with materialism, Christ himself being our true possession. He satisfies our need to cling to something outside of ourselves. And he also satisfies us by showing us how he has provided for us. He's our true possession and he's our source of contentment. And we looked at various passages where Christ is our truest possession. Everything else is as rubbish, as Paul says, in comparison to him. And then we looked at various passages where God teaches his people to be content with the gifts he has given them. And so that is how Christ solves this issue of materialism, by being himself our truest possession, and by also being our source of contentment with the other possessions that we do have. So for reflection this week, as you talk to your student about this, ask them the reflection question we had from the message, which the reflection question was, are you looking to material objects for happiness? And the phrase I gave them to look out for in their lives, to maybe spot if they are, is saying things like, well, I'll be happy once I have blank. Once I get blank, then I'll be happy. And it doesn't have to be that exact phrase, but what it really reveals is a heart that is attaching the idea of happiness to an object or an event or a job, whatever it may be, but a heart that is not looking to God and Christ for happiness, but looking to something else, some material object, some event, whatever it may be. So ask your student as they've been processing through that, does your heart reveal that you are materialistic in these things? Are you looking to material objects for happiness? And then help them to break that. Help remind them that no, Christ is your source of happiness. Help them. Another thing I said to do for a practical thing this week was write down a list of all the things you have to be grateful for. Not general gratitude, but grateful directly to Christ, directly to his hand caring for you. Write down a list. Think about it, so that you stop looking to material objects and saying, well, once I get that, once I have that, then I'll be happy. No, you have Christ. You ought to be happy now. So that is all I have for you this week. If you have any questions or anything like that, please feel free to comment below or reach out to me. Otherwise, see you next time.